Welcome, everybody. Today, I've got a very, very special guest, Michael Tellinger, who I met a couple of years ago, and he's the reason why I started Omnia, basically. He introduced me through his festival to Professor Ilya Lakisevich, and through his science, we developed a product, the Omnia radiation balancer, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Through that, I've developed an interest in science, you could say. But yeah, Michael's been an inspiration for me for a long time. I've watched his videos on YouTube for a long time about stone circles and all sorts of other incredible phenomena in South Africa, which he has a unique perspective on. And I met Michael when I went to his festival, as I mentioned, in South Africa. And I was a bit wary when I turned up. I was like, oh, I wonder if I'm going to meet him, that sort of thing. I didn't know what it was going to be like. And I remember when I was dropped off there, I walked up past the stadium to the campsite where there was a tribe. I forget the name of the tribe, Michael. What was the name of the tribe?
Are you talking about the Bushmen? Bushman tribe.
Yeah. So we had the Bushman tribe at the top of the stadium, and I was walking up there, and you were the first person I met coming the other way. And I was like, oh, I met him already on the first day. So that was really cool. And then afterwards, you were very gracious in hosting us, a few of us, in your ranch, where we did a museum tour, and you showed us some of the stones, which were fascinating because some of them make noises, and they have this resonance around the stones, which I'd like you to talk a little bit about later on. And then we did a tour of Adam's calendar and some of the stone circles around South Africa. I've got your book here, which is amazing. The Temple.
Oh, by the way,
Gods.
That book, as of today, that book is now finally available on Amazon as a print on demand. So you can buy the book. Beautiful. It looks just like that. And so anyone, anywhere can now order that book around the world. So a long time we had to redesign the layout and everything. Today it became live on Amazon. So I'm very excited about that.
Awesome. We'll put the link in the description. Another book that I wanted to draw people's attention to is Ubuntu. And we're going to be talking about this today because the movement that Michael stands for is an amazing movement called One Small Town. And he set that up a little while ago. And now it's getting a lot of traction because people are getting a bit disenfranchised, shall we say, with governments and shall we say, maybe banksters as well. But I'd tell you, the first 60, 70, 80 pages of this was mind-blowing for me. It was just, I thought I was down the rabbit hole, pretty awake, knew what was what. But it wasn't until I read that I understood everything from, what level of fraud is being run on us today. And it's a real eye-opener. And that's why Michael attracts so many people to his movement, because through their awakening, he's like, right, well, I've been researching this for years. But the best thing is, what about this solution? Here's a solution. So today, welcome, Michael. I just wanted to say thanks for coming on and tell us about One Small Town.
Hi, Tim. Great talking to you again. And well done on launching Omnia through your chance meeting with Professor Lakisevich. And, you saw an amazing discovery, scientific breakthrough, and you reacted and acted on your gut feel and your instincts. And I think I'm deeply grateful for that. And I'm sure that thousands of people and eventually millions of people around the world will be grateful for you for starting this. Because when I first met Lucky in 2012 in Hilversum, Holland, when I spoke at the Breakthrough Energy Conference, he showed me this technology of his, and then he gave me a bunch of his stickers in Prague, of all places. I remembered that it was actually in Prague when I met him a year later or 2 years later, and he gave me these little stickers, and we were talking about new energy and alternative energy, and he gave me these stickers, and he said, just use them because it'll protect you from radiation. So I trusted him, I believed him, and so I took it, and I've been using it ever since. And then you're the one that actually took it to a whole new level to show how effective they are, how it protects you. You did the science, so well done to you. Very proud of you that this happened and unfolded like this.
Thank you.
So,
Doing my bit in the way that I know how to. So yeah, it's great. And now we're all kind of united again together. And I think you're going to reach out to Lackey again, and you haven't spoken to him for a while. So that's great. Everything's all sort of circling back.
Yeah. So let's go back to the question, the Ubuntu movement in one small town. That book that you have up, Ubuntu Contribution-ism, a blueprint for human prosperity, that I would really recommend, that's a foundational starting point for everyone. No matter what you think you know about our human history, what you think you know about the origins of money, about gold, about the cabal, about what's going on in the world, read that book. It will probably surprise you. And you might know some of the information in there, but you'll get a lot more information that you may not be aware of. For example, the origins of language, the manipulation of language, and so much more. Sound, resonance, frequency, cymatics, all of this is in that book, Ubuntu Contribution-ism, a blueprint for human prosperity. Because ultimately, everything comes from the same source. And we've been manipulated and lied to for so long as a species that very few people are actually able to recognize the truth and realize what is propaganda, what are the lies, where is the truth, who is deceiving us, who's telling us the truth. Are governments our friend, or are governments actually working for some clandestine cabal organization that is trying to enslave humanity? And this is a huge question, because until we come to terms with what I call this terrible truth about human origins, the real activity in ancient human times, and how that's been unfolding for thousands and thousands of years. Only when we come to terms with that terrible truth can we start realizing what not to do and what to do into the future. So
there's a better way. Yeah.
Read that book, because that will give you a good platform and a starting departure point to understand how that evolved since 2005, how that philosophy then evolved into the one small town can change the world strategy. And that really the one small town strategy came out of many years of trying to inject this what I call the seed of consciousness into humanity. And we thought that the way we could possibly do this is by starting a political movement, because politics, you can reach many people. If you get into politics, you can then hopefully make some changes and affect changes in policy and laws and so forth. But that was very rapidly, I realized, well, not rapidly, it took 6 years of being in politics. That I only realized then that that's not a move that's going to actually help us and save humanity, or present a plausible solution and a blueprint for what we should be doing. Because once you get wrapped up in politics, you get swallowed by the beast. Because what I realized very quickly, starting the Ubuntu party in South Africa in 2010, and then running in elections in 2012, 2014, I ran for president, and then 2016, we ran in the local elections in South Africa in 13 municipalities, already at that stage realizing that we can't try and affect change from central political area, but if we just win one municipality, we can then initiate the one small town strategy in that municipality, which would then become the example for other small towns and municipalities to do the same. So that's how it evolved. I realized very quickly that you cannot inject a seed of consciousness into the political beast, because the political beast is controlled by external forces. The outcome of elections is predetermined. It's controlled, manipulated to have a result that the cabal and the global elite control the outcome. And I learned that in South Africa in 2014, the hard way. And just, if you don't know about this, we had more than 1 million signed up members for the Ubuntu party. For a tiny little party in South Africa, that is a huge achievement. And we ended up with 5,500 votes. So you think about how realistic that is. Okay.
It's extraordinary. Just the filthy tactics and everything, and we're seeing a lot of it today. I don't want to get too much into what's happening today, because it's almost like people who know, and we don't need to go over all of that old ground. But it's happening right now in our faces, and I am interested in your views as to whether all of this is kind of going somewhere intentionally, almost like divinely guided, that everyone has to have their face really rubbed into this, malfeasance, this, this fraud, this, these lies, for them to have their own personal wake up, because, for many people, they've been on this trail for a long time, but for those who haven't been, it's maybe something sort of much deeper that needs to shift inside them. And it could be something really nasty that has to wake them up. But yeah, sorry, going back to the to setting up small town.
Yeah, so, and I think you're quite right. If people are reasonably unhappy or they're balanced, they think they're living an okay life. If they've got a job, they're happy, they got a nice house, they got a car, and they seem to experience this sort of relative levels of freedom where they can do stuff, they can go on holiday and all that kind of, they feel stable, and they don't want to shake the tree too much because they feel stable and secure with their family and their friends, then circle of friends, and that's what happens when you have that kind of lifestyle and you fall into that category of people around the world. You then surround yourself with similar kind of people that fall into that same category, because you don't want to shake your personal tree of safety and comfort too much.
Yep.
But the moment something happens, like you lose your job, the factory you work for, or the mine you work for, or the big corporation you work for goes belly up, or the bank you work goes belly up, and suddenly you lose your job, and you realize that it's not that easy to find another job, and suddenly your degree and your experience is not highly regarded or worth anything, because it's just you actually have a skill that you can apply. You can't build something or create something. You just have theoretical knowledge, and you realize that your theoretical knowledge is not really that highly sought after.
Not the survival.
That's when
yeah.
So if you can't bake bread or build a bridge or weld or build houses or carpentry or make bricks or make clothes, or if you don't actually have a skill or grow food or purify water, if you don't have a skill, you really are useless, right?
Yeah.
Because without those fundamental skills, from growing food to building shelter to healing somebody, you really can do nothing. So that's when I realized
something that the One Small Town is very focused on, isn't it? Listing all of the things that the community needs, and then bringing people forward and saying, look, we will train you in these different things, but you've got to give us some time of your week as a contribution, because it's all about contribution-ism. And you can talk about Ubuntu and the philosophy of Ubuntu as well. But that's what it is. It's an exchange, isn't it? Where you basically say, okay, well, I'm going to benefit from the community giving me everything I need, but I'm also going to give my time to that community to build the farms, to build the roads, to get the clean water and so on.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So the fundamental principle is called contribution-ism, and it's like no other ism we've ever had, like capitalism, socialism, fascism, or communism, whatever. It's nothing like any of these, because ultimately what contribution-ism does, it gets people to contribute, contribution-ism, where people contribute towards the collective well-being of everyone in the community. Not like communism. Communism is a brutal dictatorship. In many ways, communism is the same as capitalism, except communism, everything and the money and the distribution of wealth is controlled by a central totalitarian government. In capitalism, it's controlled by the giant corporations that control the government. So it's very similar. Capitalism and communism, as people may not realize, are very, very similar in their structure. They're both brutal dictatorships, right?
Yeah.
And contributionism does exactly the opposite. It takes away that power and control from the centralized governments and brings it to the people in their small towns and communities. And this is what happened with the One Small Town strategy and philosophy. When I realized, after being involved in politics for a number of years, that we're not going to solve anything by getting into parliament. All we're going to do is get wrapped up and argue every day about this and that and change this bill and that bill and have very little effect, while we forget that the power lies with the people, and the people live in small towns all over the world. Forget the people in the cities. It's very difficult to affect the population in the large metropolitan areas and cities. It's too big. They're like little countries themselves. But when you go to the small towns, in the countryside, where you have a mayor and a community that all know each other. They know who's doing what, and they know the doctor, and they know the mayor, they know the butcher, they know the milk supplier and the baker. Everybody knows everybody. You know the engineers, you know the architects. So in the small towns, when you change the way people think in the small towns, you can affect change very, very quickly. And that's where
there's a stronger community there as well, right? I know that from living in London. There's no community in London, although there used to be quite a strong community back in the 70s when I was sort of growing up. I remember that, but it's disappeared now. London's become this international town or whatever. But yeah, as soon as you go into the sticks, as we might call it, but out into the countryside, there is a stronger sense of community. So we're leveraging on that, right?
We're leveraging on that. The fact that small towns have a sense of community. It's very quick and very easy to get the people to unite towards a common purpose if they know that it's going to benefit themselves and the entire community. So that's really where the One Small Town strategy came from, and it was born in 2014 after the elections in South Africa. If you don't know, we also ran elections in the UK in 2 constituencies. In Canada, we registered the Ubuntu Party, and in Australia, we ran in New South Wales in 2016 under the Ubuntu banner for governor. One of our representatives ran for governor of New South Wales. So we didn't succeed in politics, but what is happening now is the One Small Town strategy is really getting to the hearts and minds of the people. It's taken since 2016 for that to evolve and grow. And now suddenly after lockdown, when people started to really evaluate their life and evaluate how happy they are and what they have, and that their global possessions mean nothing if everything's shut down and you can't go anywhere, do anything. And they started to evaluate their lives and realize that maybe they should change something. Maybe this life that we lead and the system, the socio-economic system that we find ourselves in, is not the solution for the problems of the world. And we can clearly see that we are all screwed. We're pretty much screwed.
And all our personal liberties are being, impeded and dictated, really. It's like, we're being told, to wear masks. We're being told how we can socialize. All of our personal freedoms are being, the beast, as you called it, but, the government is looking us in the face and really, almost forcing us to for those who you mentioned earlier on, who've been very comfortable so far, even those people are starting to stir and say, well, something's not right here. And that's great, because that was, that brings people into like, well, how do we change this? And what I love about the movement is that, I think it was Buckminster Fuller who said something like, I'm going to get this wrong, but, instead of trying to change something from within, you just basically invent a new model, which makes the old model redundant, right? And it's a lot more like that, isn't it? It's like, here's a new model, and then it just, because it's all based on service to others rather than service to self, which is very much the energy of the banksters, the corporations and whatever. Service to others, then it attracts people into that movement.
I do need to correct you, though. Service to others is not a solution. It's service to your own community.
Right.
Okay, so there's service to self, that's just capitalism and greed and ego. That's the bad part about our current social structure. Service to others is equally fatally flawed, because it means you neglect yourself. You destroy yourself. You destroy your home, your family, because you're so focused on service to others and helping others. That's not a solution either. It's service to your community, which includes you. So by service to your community means that you're also serving yourself, because if your community prospers and everybody else around you is happy, you benefit from that happiness yourself. So this is the third. And One Small Town provides that alternative that many people seem to have overlooked. So when you read the Ubuntu book, you'll learn all these differences. You'll understand why this is so critical, to recognize why we have to move away from the current socioeconomic system and create something completely new that makes the current system obsolete. Quite rightly, as you said, as Buckminster Fuller made us aware of a long time ago. And that's what One Small Town does, incredibly elegantly, simply, and without much fanfare. And all it needs is the people of the town and the mayor to agree to go this direction. So I'm not going to go into the details of the nitty-gritty of how we launch One Small Town. It is so much simpler and so easy to do that that people, it boggles people's minds. Sometimes people think, oh, that sounds fantastic, but it'll never happen. Stop thinking like that. Don't think like that. Don't become your own worst enemy, and don't become your own hurdle to progress. So don't say it's never going to.
Yeah.
Right. So watch the videos, go to the onesmalltown.org website. It's the Ubuntu Planet website, but the URL onesmalltown.org also takes you there. You can watch all the videos there, read all the material, get informed about what One Small Town is, how it's implemented, how simple it is, watch all the videos. And then once you know that, how simple it is, then make sure you share that with everybody else. What our objective is here is to create the critical mass point of no return, the critical mass.
Tipping point. Yeah.
So as soon as we have a certain number of people around the world aware of One Small Town, and I think that's like 3.3% of the population. Once we have that number of people aware of it, it will reach the critical mass and the tipping point, and then nothing can stop it. And that's when also the 100 monkey syndrome kicks in, and suddenly people everywhere start to recognize, oh, this is a simple solution. And the thing about One Small Town is that it really it entices the mayor of the town. Well, it works both ways. Either the people of the town realize that we can do this ourselves, or the mayor finds it and recognizes, or the town council, and they say, wow, this is a solution for our small town to lift our town out of bloody just sliding into oblivion, because all small towns around the world have the same problem. And don't think if you live in England or France or one of the first world countries or Germany, small towns are well looked after. Small towns in all countries suffer from the same problem, ever decreasing availability to funds to provide services to the people of that town. It's as simple as that. That means in the first world countries, you might feel the degradation slower than in third world countries, but eventually you will get there just like all third world countries got there, right? So, and living in South Africa is a great example, because some people might not be aware of this, but South Africa was very much a first world country. It was a spearhead of the first world countries for many decades.
Because of all the mines and all the natural resources and
Well, not only that, it's 50s, 60s, and 70s. From the 40s on, South Africa was one of the most prosperous countries on earth. We had the best technology, the best nuclear research, the best scientists, best doctors, best everything. And we were the most prosperous country on earth. Right. And then with the fall of apartheid, when the cabal took over South Africa, everything was then pushed in the same way that post-colonial Africa is treated by the global elite. I'm not going to go into that, but you can read about that in the Ubuntu book.
In the book, yeah.
Africa, we've seen what happens when you live in a first world country, to how that can change very quickly to start appropriating a third world country. Because now we have the extremely rich and we have the extremely poor, which you don't see in so-called first world countries.
And that's maybe a warning shot for the UK, given everything,
exactly. For all first world
strain that's happening right now, and the USA.
Yeah, for all first world countries, just look at what's happening to the small towns. All small towns are falling apart, and the degradation the rate is increasing, and you can see it. I've noticed it traveling through the USA. USA is a great example. And I've traveled extensively over a 10-year period through the USA, more than anyone will probably travel through the USA on my annual tours. And you can see how the small towns are just being destroyed, falling apart, farms standing empty, warehouses standing empty, silos, food silos that should be filled with food are standing empty and breaking down. It's just a very, very sad state of affairs. And the same is happening all over the world. So what One Small Town does is the mayor suddenly becomes the face and the voice of change and prosperity in their town, where you identify and you recognize the industrial opportunities, the farms, the warehouses, the factories, the schools, the empty hotels, whatever is there as an opportunity. You recognize that as an opportunity, you do your business model, you put that out as an investment opportunity to investors around the world, and you provide your town community as the labor force that will make those businesses succeed. Now, you can read all about it and watch the videos in more detail, but let me just jump right to the end here. the average, so you understand how successful and profitable a small town can be once the people do this and they unite as a cooperative and unite their labor force so that all the businesses that you set up in your town are co-owned by the people. So in essence, you've turned your town into a powerful labor force that can compete against any international corporation, a corporation that normally have thousands of people. You can now compete with these corporations, whether it's growing food, making cornflakes, building computers, or anything, whether it's healthcare, education, whatever it is. This is the crux of the matter. So keep this in your mind. And this is what every small town of 10,000 people, more or less, and more, is capable of. The average corporation that has 5,000 employees or more does an average annual turnover of $1 billion per annum. And this is a statistic you can go look up yourself.
Yeah.
Implementing the one small town strategy in your town, a town of 10,000 people, has the capacity very quickly to turn over $1 billion or more for your town as a cooperative corporation that is owned by all the people of that town. Let that resonate with you. Let that sink in and realize how powerful and simple this strategy is.
And there's just all this potential. There's all this potential sitting in all of these tiny communities everywhere, and they're looking upwards to someone else to sort it all out for them, and they're being completely disappointed and let down. Whereas all power resides in ourselves. That's what I love about your whole approach to all of this, is that you're basically bringing out the power of the individual to connect with their community and then build the community from inside, from the heart. In a collective contributionist model, and that's fantastic, and there's so much potential there. So this is just a wonderful message.
So just very quickly, the important thing as well, that the mayor doesn't need any money, the mayor doesn't need funding, nothing. So there is no downside for the mayor to introduce this strategy. It's not he doesn't have to go out and beg for money no. In fact, the opposite happens. The moment the mayor announces that we're implementing this one small town strategy and we're creating all these opportunities in cooperative businesses in our town where investors can come and invest, the investors come running and offering their investment into these small towns. We know this from our experience in a small town in Canada, where we did this in 2017. Although that didn't work as well as we thought, we were still learning what not to do and what doesn't work. And I don't want to go into the details and get sucked into that. But in essence, what that experience in Canada did for us is it taught us what the strengths are of the one small town strategy and what the weaknesses are. The weaknesses are is that you have to follow the strategy. If you don't follow the plan, then it'll fall apart. You have to follow the simple steps of implementation. The moment you start changing it to what you think is better or is going to work better, it's not going to work. The one small town model has evolved over a 16-year period to get us to this, 16-year period to get us to this place where everything is slowly but surely organically grown into a very strong lattice of implementation strategy. So it's an organically evolved plan of action, not something that was haphazardly thrown together. So the moment you try and change that, you destroy the strength of the model. So what we learned is that investors and funders started to phone the mayor, Ron Higgins, in Canada, cold calling, just unsolicited phone calls saying, I love what you're doing in your town. I want to invest in your town. Now, if you just ask the simple question, how many mayors of small towns received unsolicited calls from investors that want to invest in their town? The answer to that is zero. Zero of small towns get unsolicited phone calls from investors. So we know from that little experience that the philosophy itself attracts investment because of the cooperative labor force. Now, the power of this cooperative labor force is the big thing here, because people don't realize how much strength there is in our united labor force if we each just contribute a little bit of time. Instinctively, people would think, oh, and that means I have to give up my job or I have to give up something to do this. No, you have to give up nothing. So the mayor doesn't need any money. The mayor doesn't need any funding. There's no embarrassment that's attached to this because they're doing something weird. They have to leave something behind and take a leap of faith to do something new. There's none of this. It's simply providing a platform of investment opportunity, making your town this attractive investment opportunity with all these incredible investments, and your people as the cooperative labor force that become the co-owners. And this is the crux of the matter. All it requires from every member of our community is 3 hours per week, 3 hours per week to make this work.
Mm.
People do this number, this
It's like going to the cinema, to watch a long movie, but it's just like once a week. It's, yeah. I mean, everyone's got a Monday night, that they can just
if you do numbers, exactly. Everybody's got 3 hours a week. Doesn't matter if you're a doctor or an engineer or a politician or whatever the hell you are, you will have 3 hours a week. And, we've got blockchain technology, we've got computers, we know how to structure things, we've got very sophisticated project managers, we know how to set this up, to know how to sign our members of our community up with their special skills. So if you're a surgeon, we're not going to make you sweep the streets or trim the stuff in the park. We're going to let you help in the hospital. But you will also do the streets. Everybody does everything. But people with special skills obviously are used where they need it. And people with no skills are used to do all the general labor force stuff. But what you realize is you also learn new skills. The crux of the matter here is that we know how to appoint people where we need their skills and so forth. And pretty much our cooperative labor force of our town community, if everybody contributes 3 hours a week in a town of 10,000 people, that is 30,000 hours of labor every week. 30,000 hours of labor. You have to have a lot of businesses and a lot of things for people to do. Otherwise, there's not enough things for people to do.
And that can be incredibly productive, but also, return a good revenue. Like you were saying earlier on, these businesses can sprout out that can be very, very lucrative. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the other important thing, people think, well, you mean volunteers are going to run the businesses? No. Again, watch the videos, read the information, watch the videos. The businesses are set up very meticulously, even more meticulously than other businesses, because now we have a collective goal that these businesses are owned by the people and the investors. We want to make this as good and as slick as possible. So the business will be set up by an expert, whatever. If it's a carpentry shop, then it's an expert carpenter. If it's a bakery, it's an expert baker. If it's an engineering shop, it's an expert engineer. If it's a computer building thing, it's an expert person from the computer industry. So every business is set up with the best possible expertise at the top, surrounded by the next level of expertise. After that, the receptionist, the delivery, the security, the IT, that's all part of our labor force. And the largest expense of any corporation around the world is their labor. So companies with 5,000 employees, they could probably get rid of 4,000 of those employees and retain 1,000 employees and be as productive as they are. That means you're saving yourself, 80% of your labor, 80% of your costs. So you can compare an international corporation of 5,000 employees to a town of 10,000 people, because when our people contribute their 3 hours a week, they're going to do it with love, with excitement. They're going to meet new people, learn new skills, and they're going to do it knowing that whatever they're doing is they're contributing towards their own well-being. So they're not going to try and take time off or steal time or sleep on the job or anything like that. That's not the case here. So the productivity level in our one small town model is infinite.
Yeah, it's bringing that pride in the community, isn't it?
And that one small town model.
Fantastic.
Sorry, there's a delay. So many what do you want to say?
Yeah, so many positive messages there. I mean, I was just saying that, by contributing to your own community, that increases your well-being. Like you feel like you're not, struggling against unknown forces or anything like that. You actually, really putting in and getting something back. And like you were saying earlier on, all of the, all of the proceeds from all those projects come back to you, directly. So, what's not to love about that whole model? I just wanted to, one more question, because it's something obviously that is close to our hearts at Omnia as well, is what role does free energy play in this whole system? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, very important question. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Just want to come back to the benefits, because you mentioned the benefits from what you do for your community come back to you. So it's very important for people to understand the benefits to the community, to you as an individual in your community. By simply contributing 3 hours a week means that you get the benefits from everything, from every business, everything that we do. Contributionism is not a bartering or trading system. That is equally, bartering and trading is the same as capitalism. It's not a solution. Contributionism is a one-to-many exchange. So you share your skills with everybody. And just like everybody shares their skills with everybody else, it means everything we do is available to everyone in our community. So by contributing your 3 hours a week, you have access and you get benefits from everything, from the engineering, from the technology, from the food, from the hospital, the healthcare, from the arts and culture, from the sports. Everything is available to you all the time. And obviously that's where the blockchain technology and that comes in to manage those structures so it doesn't get abused, nobody can abuse it, and so forth.
Transparency, all of that,
One of those benefits is electricity and energy. Healthcare is another big one, but I don't want to get sidetracked into that. Keep in mind that international healthcare tourism is a huge trillion-dollar business, right? So if you set up a health and wellness center in your town that cures cancer, that gets rid of gallstones, that it does all these things, and we have that technology, you can attract thousands of people every year to your small town to come and be treated in your health and wellness center. That alone will bring billions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars to your town from that health industry that is owned by the people. And keep in mind that while the outsiders pay for that service, you as a member of your community gets it for free. So everything we do, the food we grow, the clothes we make, the computers we build, the nail clippers we make, are all available to the members of our community. Once you have a computer, you don't need another one. Once you have a nail clipper, you don't need another one. So once we've served the community, everything we do is then just available for sale and export. And that's where the benefits and the profits come in. But let's talk about the electricity and the energy. Ultimately, that becomes one of the first potential benefits to that community, because with the Ubuntu movement, we have a number of brilliant inventors, scientists, and researchers that have made available their technology to us. So we have an alternative source of electricity, our electric generators that we put into the small town. There are various ways and models at which we put the electricity in to the town, and we discuss that with the mayor and the people of that community when the time is right to discuss that. So for now, all you need to know is that there's an alternative source of electricity that we have available for your town that we will bring and introduce to your community. So you can unplug the current supply of electricity and start your own generator that then runs with no input. We're talking about green, brand new technology. So you don't need coal or fuel or diesel to run it. This is whole new, brand new technology. And this becomes the foundational platform upon which that community is eventually built, where you, as your community and the people of that town, co-own your own electricity supply generator or generators. That changes everything. Absolutely. So one of the benefits to the community could also be, once you own your own electricity supply, you can use that income to start all the different businesses that are then owned by the people. Because if the electricity provider or the generator is yours, you choose to carry on paying for electricity and then use that monthly income. Imagine 10,000 people paying $100 a month. That's $1 million a month coming into your small town.
Yeah, there you go.
$1 million a month. You can start several businesses every month that are co-owned by the community. So the electricity generator and the supply of your own electricity could actually become the funding mechanism to start up all these different businesses without even having to ask investors to come and invest. Right. So
and as soon as investors invest, they come in with their own terms, don't they? And this is a way of being completely, independent and self-sufficient within that model, right?
Yes.
You don't have to rely on the external investors, but you're not going to turn them away if they turn up. But you've got a strong hand to play in terms of like, well, no, I don't like those terms. These are our terms because we're serving the community, right?
Yes, very important. The One Small Town plan of action strategy is very simple, very strict. This is what the investor is going to have to abide by, because these are the benefit the investor gets. And if you don't want to buy into our investment according to our set of guidelines, then we're not going to take your investment. You cannot invest. It's very simple. There are also simple ways of overcoming the existing businesses in your town, the existing engineering shop or bakery or dairy or whatever is there, how to turn those to become community-owned businesses without the owners be losing out, or without the owners feeling they're being bullied. All these models and solutions are already encoded in the One Small Town model. And the One Small Town model never, ever turns away anyone. It is a fully embracing, fully inclusive model that invites and involves and includes everybody that wants to participate. So it is unlike any other socio-economic system we have in the world today, where people are only allowed if you pay so much, or if you belong to this group, or if you belong to that race group, or this, are you serious? Or this religious group? No, One Small Town model invites and embraces everybody that wants to participate, because if you participate, you benefit, you basically benefit the whole community, and by benefiting the community, you benefit yourself. And that's how simple the model is. And really, I think on this note, I've possibly said enough. So I'd like to invite people, go to onesmalltown.org, watch all the videos, get the Ubuntu book, get the foundational knowledge, and then go out and tell everyone. We need to reach critical mass awareness around the world so that this can happening.
Absolutely. And I really urge all of my viewers, or all of the Omnia viewers, to really sort of, just do spend some time, invest some time, because you're investing time in something new, exciting, empowering as well. And there's a lot of things that are going on in the world that that need correcting. I mean, you just mentioned their small businesses, which are getting smashed by lockdowns and prohibitions and all those sort of things. And this is a way of just reversing that and turning the power back into the community, so your local shops can thrive and all those things, and nothing has to be a huge chain of stuff and all the rest. So look, there's so much exciting stuff we could talk for ages, and but I want to sort of wrap it up so that it's digestible to the viewers. But yeah, look, I wanted to just say thank you so much, and I do urge my viewers to become a patron, and I'll be posting all of the links to One Small Town below, and maybe we'll check in every couple of months to see what the progress is and report back on that. But for now, Michael, thank you so much for sharing all of that. Thank you for your passion for what you stand for. It's truly revolutionary, and I think very necessary.
Thanks very much, Tim, and good luck with Omnia.
To support One Small Town, you can check out the website at www.onesmalltown.org. You can become a member of the movement at patreon.com/onesmalltownsupport. At the Omnia store, you get 10% off if you enter One Small Town in all caps at the checkout. And Michael's YouTube channel is Michael Tellinger, all one word. Thanks for watching.